Good morning and welcome to Rising. We've got a great show for you today, and we're getting off on the right foot because you just made a reference before we started recording to your favorite Dreamcast game. The Dreamcast, young people, was a video game system from my childhood that I was fond of. I can't believe you played a Dreamcast.
I just told the whole crew that I was really a video game fan. I played Shenmue. I played.
I know what that
back
is.
in the day. What was it called? Barracuda.
Power Stone was the game I loved.
What's the one? Parappa the Rapper. That was one of my favorite games
yes,
too.
I remember these things. These
We
are
can go down-
millennial terms.
Yes, we might be getting old now.
We are getting old, but
Oh,
I
man.
just love the video games of my childhood.
It brought up so much nostalgia. It put me in a happy mood.
I'm trying really hard right now to play this hacked version of the Zelda games for Nintendo 64, where the items in it are randomized, but you have to like download it, and I think you have to steal it on Tor. You know how we used to steal music?
Yeah,
it's
like
too
Napster.
complicated for me to do it. I was trying to get AI to explain it to me. I can't figure it out.
Well, let me know if you figure out. I might try it.
Okay.
But coming up on Rising,
Yeah,
CBS
anyway.
is denying Stephen Colbert's claim that the network pulled his interview with Democratic Texas Senate candidate James Talarico, saying that they only provided the show with legal guidance over the FCC's equal rule time.
I'll have a lot to say on that, believe me. Plus, a Trump administration official is calling out former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in a battle over prediction markets and who gets to regulate them.
And President Trump and Governor Wes Moore are clashing over the response to the sewage spill in the Potomac River. Very frustrating. But first, Robby, what's in your radar?
Well, another day, another semi-deranged conversation on the Abby Phillips Show on CNN. This time, Shark Tank's Kevin O'Leary set Tezlyn Figaro, a progressive political commentator, straight on matters of criminal justice and American history. The conversation was about a legitimate news subject, a judge's decision to restore an exhibit about slavery at Independence National Historic Park in Philadelphia. And that's all good by me. I agree we should teach real history of the U.S., not some sanitized version. I've been clear on that for years. In this country, the realities of slavery and the Civil War are taught and should be taught to children. We already do a good job of that, I think, in most schools throughout the U.S. But if you have ideas for how we can do it even better, I'm all ears. But it sounds to me like it's Figaro herself who needs a history lesson. Listen to her and O'Leary arguing.
It's so interesting that you said that because right before we went to break, you asked me what country was I living in. This one that we just went through.
You should be
the country
happy to
that
live
did
here.
the country that just did what they did. So for you to sit here and act like you just didn't say, what country are you talking about? What country, puts people in jail wrong? What country enslaves folks, which is pretty much the private prison system? What country does this? You can't possibly be a history buff and also say that as well.
Did you catch that? The lefty was arguing that there is slavery in the U.S. today, not 200 years ago, but presently, because of the private prison system. And I'm sorry, but that's just totally made up. And it's fine to oppose private prisons as a matter of policy, of course, but private prisons are just prisons that are administered privately. The people incarcerated there are people who have gone through or are going through the criminal justice system. Private prisons don't just abduct people off the streets or something. They incarcerate people at the behest of state prosecutors and state police. You know what countries do imprison hundreds and thousands of people unjustly? Let's name them. Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. You notice what wasn't on that list? The United States. O'Leary, of course, followed up with this exact point.
Let me give you how bad it can be. The Romans used to burn to the ground.
You can't never give me how bad it could
salt
be.
The
You
earth.
could never give me how bad it could be. I live it on
That
a
was
daily
bad.
basis,
The
baby.
Romans
I
were
live it
pretty
on
bad.
a daily basis, honey.
They were bad
I
dudes.
live it on a daily basis. You can never tell me how bad it could be. But I would encourage you to actually be the history buff that you claim that you are,
Well, where
and
do you
really
wanna
get some
move to?
understanding. It's not about me. I'm not going nowhere. I'm staying right here.
I think the question
You don't need to give me no
here-
visa to
All
try.
right. Kevin, I
I'm
think
better.
the
I'm
question
staying
here
right
would
here.
be.
Now, just because there are other much worse countries out there, it doesn't mean we have to refrain from criticizing the U.S. at all. Moreover, it certainly doesn't mean that we should refrain from criticizing the federal government. But there is a certain kind of left progressive commentator who seems to view America as uniquely bad, uniquely broken, uniquely flawed on a historical scale. But ours is a great nation that saved humanity from the scourges of Nazi Germany and Imperial Japan, defeated the Soviet Union, one of the most oppressive and carceral regimes in the history of the world, without firing a direct shot. This is a country that works to counteract Islamic authoritarianism and undermines the new threats posed by China and Russia. So how about a little enthusiasm and appreciation for the greatness of America? maybe liberals could lean into a positive message if they want to win elections ever again.
So I know anybody with a criticism in your book gets labeled a liberal, but let me paint the Tezlyn picture a little better for you. She's an independent and former veteran of our country. And she went around making everybody thank her for her service, which I found quite
appropriate.
Yeah, fine, appropriate. So she was explaining
her for that.
No, they were having a conversation about the fact that you can criticize this country without saying the worst of the worst is what we're comparing it to. She's holding our country to the standards of freedom, the standards that we've set through our Constitution for all people. And so she's allowed to be critical of that. And when you bring in the prison system,
we have slavery here in
let me break it down. Have you watched 13th by Ava DuVernay? It's a really good documentary that you should about the 13th Amendment and how prison labor is compared to slave labor is because it's forced working with no pay. Well, let me finish. It's minimal pay, pennies on the dollar, no oversight. So people are automatically exposed to situations where they're getting taken advantage of, regardless of the crime, right? They're still out there working for free. Many private businesses are profiting from this work, and that causes an incentive to keep more people in jail to keep these companies running. Now, this creates a financial back and forth and incentive for these companies, but also has historical and racial links. So if you look at many present-day prison systems, they're on the same land as former slave plantations. So let's talk about Angola in Louisiana. Let's talk about Parchment in Mississippi. So there's a lot of conversation about the same people that were working on these plantations that was actual slavery now has prison laborers that are benefiting private companies working on the same lay of land for pennies or nothing because our criminal justice system allows that and really enhances that. So that's a conversation.
My understanding is that, and I don't know, I've never been to prison, but my understanding is that a whole lot of people who are imprisoned are glad there is work to do because being in prison can be very boring. And no, I mean, like exhaustively boring.
But what dialogue have you had and what study shows people are glad to work for free?
They are glad to have their time occupied in some way. I'm sure not everyone is, but there are a lot of people in prison like, oh my God, sign me up for some kind of work duty because I'm going to go bored out of my mind. That's
the whole point of the 13th Amendment is that slavery was involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for a crime. This is exactly what the 13th Amendment is talking about. Punishment for a crime is working for free? No, it should be go to jail, like you said.
No person can be benefiting private liberty and without due process of the law. They've had due process.
Right, and now companies are benefiting from this free labor, which is the same thing companies were benefiting from the free labor of slaves, and that is the comparison. Whether you disagree or agree is up to you, but the comparison from a veteran, somebody who obviously loves the country because they're going to put their life on the line, is fair for her to suggest. I mean, there's docuseries about this topic, about the fact that maybe that's not the way to get somebody reintegrated into society when they leave jail, is to have them work for free and then be released from prison. And then the recidivism rate is really high. So it really doesn't help that they had gotten to work.
Not having them work and is not going to be...
Have them read books. Have them go to church, Robby. There's a lot of things that they can do
I'm
in prison.
Good with all that too.
Right. But working for private companies, you see the benefit.
Prisons that are not administered privately also have work duties for prisoners. So it's not unique to the private.
But I think that besides that, we could argue about prison and how comparative it is to slavery. But the fact that when you criticize the country, and Kevin O'Leary, as you know, is a friend of mine. Yeah. Like I've interviewed him multiple times, and I don't have a problem with him. We disagree on a lot politically. I do think that it's fair for somebody to say, I'm going to be very critical and hold my country to a high standard because that's the country that we live in. That's made America what it is today. Because people have challenged when it's not living up to the Constitution.
I think it's going, okay.
And so she's allowed to do that. And you can't go back and say, well, China's worse, go over there. What is that?
No, my bottom line is it's going too far to say the U.S. has slavery in the country today. That's going too far. And if you're going to say that, then you can't even reserve that term. China and our foreign adversaries do practice, I wouldn't use the word slavery exactly, they're doing mass political persecution and imprisonment of dissidents. So we have to reserve those terms for our adversaries because what they're doing is so much worse, like a 10 times worse scale. So we can't say that about us because then what do we even have left to say about them? Because what they're doing is worse.
I know, but our
We do some bad
our
things,
bottom line is not
but
what
we're
China's
good.
doing. Our bottom line is living up to our constitution. We shouldn't be saying, well, China's worse. Like, their bottom line could be underground, and that doesn't mean we have to match it and say, oh, we're higher. That doesn't mean we're doing well
No,
in
I think
certain
we should
areas.
have pride on how much better we are than China, Russia, North Korea, Iran, etc. CBS is denying that it had a hand in pulling an interview segment from Stephen Colbert's show after outrage swept across left-leaning circles. We'll be right back. Stephen Colbert's network, CBS, is now denying that it pulled a segment of his from the broadcast version of the show in order to appease the FCC and its chairman's intent to strictly enforce the equal time rule.
Now, Colbert alleged that the network was the one that made the decision to pull the segment with Texas Senate candidate James Talarico. Here's what Colbert said on Monday.
You know who is not one of my guests tonight? That's Texas State Representative James Talarico. He was supposed to be here, but we were told in no uncertain terms by our network's lawyers, who called us directly, that we could not have him on the broadcast. Because my network clearly doesn't want us to talk about this, let's talk about this.
That sparked outrage from several on the left, including from Talarico, who said this in a late show web exclusive segment.
This is the party that ran against cancel culture, and now they're trying to control what we watch, what we say, what we read. And this is the most dangerous kind of cancel culture, the kind that comes from the top. Corporate media executives are selling out the First Amendment to curry favor with corrupt politicians. And a threat to any of our First Amendment rights is a threat to all of our First Amendment rights.
Talarico's opponent in the Democratic primary, Jasmine Crockett, also called it out in an interview with Jen Psaki, saying this.
Late Show decided that this was the option, and I think that it was a good strategy. I mean, look at what happened when they tried to censor CCOT. We found out that you could get a lot more views, so I think it probably gave my opponent the boost he was looking for. When we resist and when we know that it seems like they're trying to change the rules and bend to the knee of, or bend the knee to this president, that it backfires in a historic fashion.
Journalist and author Glenn Greenwald had a slightly different perspective online. He wrote on X in part, the irony of this whole Colbert-Talarico situation is the only person who has an interest in keeping off the show is Jasmine Crockett. Colbert's audiences are liberals and Dems. That's the only voting bloc he influences. The FCC didn't raise this. CBS did. Again, CBS has denied that this segment needed to be pulled over concerns of FCC backlash and even went further, denying that the network was the one that made the decision at all. CBS told The Hill in a statement The Late Show was not prohibited by CBS from broadcasting the interview with Representative James Talarico. The show was provided legal guidance that the broadcast could trigger the FCC equal time rule for two other candidates, including Jasmine Crockett, and presented options for how the equal time for other candidates could be fulfilled. It was The Late Show itself that decided to present the interview through its YouTube channel with on-air promotion on the broadcast rather than potentially providing the equal time options. So, okay, we know a lot more information than we did yesterday. Most importantly, CBS says we did not order them not to air this interview. That's editorial spin from Colbert. The equal time, so this isn't really about the Republicans at all.
Right. That was the question
just
we had
about the
yesterday.
Democratic primary. Voting in the Democratic primary, I think early voting is open now, and it's running for the next few weeks. I think the primary is early March. So the question is, the equal time rule of the FCC would suggest, their interpretation, and again, the FCC didn't say, you can't do this. The lawyers for the network said, we think we could violate the equal time rule if we just do a Talarico interview right before the voting without also having a Jasmine Crockett interview. And we're worried we're in legal jeopardy if we do that. That was their warning. And they might very well be correct about that. I think the equal time rule is stupid and it should be scrapped, but the rules should not be ambiguous, but the rule does exist. So, Frank, I see why they did it, or why they did it, why they gave this guidance, is what they're saying. Does that make sense?
Sure. Jasmine Crockett has been on Colbert twice already. She's been on The View before within days of this election, right? I think that.
Yes, but I don't know if the Colbert interview was before. I don't know if she was a candidate yet. I don't remember.
Either way, she's not missing out on any press opportunities, right? She's been everywhere. And so I think that to think that we should just.
The rule is stupid.
But to think that we are just made to believe CBS in this situation, like that to me is odd, understanding the dynamic between President Trump, the FCC, and a yes to whatever ventures the bigger company, Paramount, has in mind for the next 3 years. We all know how business works, and it seems naive to say, okay, well, yeah, we're going to take you don't have to trust Colbert, but I'm just saying, why would we blatantly trust CBS? I think when you talk about Bari Weiss, who's in this new position, even if this was a call made by the lawyers that she and the top management had something to do with the conversation, let's just say she might have, well, she has to think about every single story that comes out about her from now moving forward to save face, because she's not only arguing with the public image externally about how she runs places, she's also internally arguing with people like Colbert that have been there decades longer than she's been in the building, journalists that have been there and think that they probably know better than her, some young person that they're looking at that has created a multi-million-dollar business and successfully at that, but also like a lot of people are looking at her like, you're doing this wrong. We've seen the private messages that have become public information to us, saying that to her. So I just think like we need to take this all with a grain of salt. I don't just trust CBS. I think Colbert is on his way out. So as people do on their way out, like we saw with who left NBC after Jay Leno. Jay Leno gave him the job. He came back. Conan played the Happy Birthday song on air, which we know is the most expensive song to play on television. You literally can't do it. He played it on his way out. I understand how disrespect goes when you're leaving a job and you think they did you wrong. So there's a lot going on here, but I'm certainly not just taking CBS's word.
Well, look, and this is important to note. If they were, so from the Republican Trump perspective, they want Crockett to win the primary because they think Crockett is more beatable than Talarico. So they want Crockett to triumph.
I don't know if they really want that.
No, they
they're
absolutely
playing
do.
games.
Oh my God, they so want. No, if they could make it happen, they want Crockett for sure to win the. Trust me, they want.
That's like
Crockett.
A sleight of hand. I feel like when they're like, I hope this person wins because they're going to lose, and then.
Well, yeah, they could be. She could win, but then they don't care. It's a dem either way. But they think she's more likely to be beaten. So if they wanted to suppress Talarico to boost Crockett. Though this has backfired because, as this always happens, the Streisand effect, this interview is getting more attention. I mean, TV, again, nobody watches TV. 1 million people is the average views per night for Colbert. Well, I checked, it's already been viewed, or 2 million on TV. It's already been viewed 1 million times on YouTube. It'll pick up more in the days and weeks to come. Social media clips on X, everywhere else, it gets more attention. There's more of an audience online than there is watching TV. So,
well, that's the thing.
And you brought attention to
it.
Well,
YouTube is also international. So I think, you have a concentrated U.S. audience with some of these networks, which is why people want to send candidates there because it's an older audience.
In Texas watching?
That definitely will vote. The 50% of people in Texas that actually do vote will be watching Colbert if they're Democrats.
I mean, that's why the FCC is silly. And these requirements on TV when every kind of media is widely available and totally unregulated and unfiltered, it makes these rules seem antiquated to me, and I would just get rid of them, but they should be enforced equally.
Up next, Mayor Zohran Mamdani gives Governor Kathy Hochul an ultimatum to either raise property taxes on the ultra-wealthy, or he's going to do something about it and address New York City's budget deficit. Don't go anywhere.
New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani is threatening a last resort option if he can't convince Kathy Hochul, the governor, to enact a statewide wealth tax. He's going to raise property taxes by nearly 10%. Mamdani on Tuesday unveiled his first preliminary budget proposal of $127 billion, which is a $5 billion increase from the current budget.
Here was Mamdani issuing a warning while presenting his budget over raising property taxes. Let's listen.
The first is the most sustainable and the fairest path. This is the path of ending the drain on our city and raising taxes on the richest New Yorkers and the most profitable corporations. And if we do not go down the first path, the city will be forced down a second, more harmful path. Faced with no other choice, the city would have to exercise the only revenue lever fully within our own control. We would have to raise property taxes. We would also be forced to raid our reserves.
Now, Mamdani's statements appeared like an ultimatum for Governor Kathy Hochul, who is running for re-election and has been blunt about her opposition to this wealth tax. Hochul recently told reporters, quote, "I'm not supportive of a property tax increase. I don't know that's necessary, but let's find out what is really necessary to close the gap."
Democratic Socialist Mamdani's proposed budget factors in a 9.5% increase in property taxes and withdrawing $980 million from the city's rainy day funds in 2026. The budget would also withdraw $229 million from the Retiree Health Benefits Trust in the next fiscal year. The final budget, after negotiations and approval by the City Council, will take effect on July 1st. They're running out of money. Liberals overspending. We can just cut services. That's what I would do. I wouldn't raise taxes at all.
Okay,
I would cut those benefits for retirees. Oof, that's the first thing to go.
You always want to. Never mind. I'm not going down this path with you about people who are older than us.
Throwing Grammy off the cliff. You're right.
Yeah, you're ridiculous. He didn't say he has to go down path 2. Let's go over and paint the picture for path 1. He wants to raise state personal income taxes by 2% on, let me finish, people making over $1 million annually. We discussed this in another segment months ago. That will only be around $20,000 for people making $1 million a year. He's suggesting that, but he needs approval from Governor Hochul, who is worried more about her reelection.
I hope she doesn't.
Let me finish. Who's worried more about her reelection than things that will be long-term, sustainable changes that she can help New York out. So she's putting him in a position where Mamdani is trying to be a man of his word who campaigned on doing certain things and is saying, well, if I have to go nuclear, here's the plan B. Option 2 is the one that we just discussed in this read-in, which people don't really like because it's going to make a tight squeeze for more than just the millionaires. And so he discussed with a millionaire who said, I might be leaving New York. I saw a segment where he broke down, well, it's only going to be about $20,000 over a year. And they were like, really? We thought it was going to be, because the way that the media is making it seem is like all your money. Every single coin is going away.
Reach into your pocket, Lindsey.
I don't have pockets.
Take your wallet.
I don't have pockets.
And then I'm going to go through, this is mine. Oh, it's not that much. Here you go. I just stole a little bit of your money.
No, the country is doing so much for you. With our capitalist society is doing so much for you. Give back a little bit more
so much for me,
to take away
so much for the retirees.
Take away the most vulnerable people. Just need a little bit more help. You can't just give a little bit extra.
Blah blah blah. Most vulnerable people is elderly Americans who are hoarding all the wealth in our society anyway.
No, that's not what people who are literally struggling with health insurance costs right now because Republicans failed to do anything about health insurance, anything meaningful or real. You know, the president proposed some random big idea that he just threw a title on that had no context.
Here's a big
and no
idea.
Details.
How
do you plan on taking care of people
running your
who
life
paid?
Is your problem, not someone else's, and not the society.
Well, you're on an island alone. There's a lot of people
that?
who care about the elderly in our country and care to see that they have the proper and adequate care, especially as we're in this window where a lot of people our age have young kids and then are also taking care of aging parents. And so to be in straddling both of those things, there's a lot of people who would wholly disagree with you about wanting to make sure that Medicaid,
because of the money they have to pay into Medicare and Social Security. Go ahead.
I just think that a lot of people will think that you're lacking empathy in a really serious topic in our country, and elderly people should be covered.
It's called
they paid
suicidal
into this.
empathy. I don't lack for empathy. I feel a great deal of empathy for young people who are delaying starting families, who can't afford to buy houses, who couldn't afford childcare and thus are not having children because of the amount of wealth that's being confiscated from our generation and younger people to make sure, our great-grandparents can go on a bunch of cruises this year.
Coming up, podcaster David Remnick pressed conservative commentator Ben Shapiro on President Trump's business dealings. Stick around for my lens.
All right, Lindsey, what's in your lens today?
Let's get to it. There's a long-standing ethical debate in this country about conflicts of interest and the presidency. But what we're looking at now is not abstract. It's concrete. It's billions of dollars, and it's happening in real time. On the New Yorker Radio Hour, host David Remnick pressed conservative commentator Ben Shapiro with a lot of questions that Americans are asking.
There was an article in the Wall Street Journal just a couple of days ago describing the fishy investments from Abu Dhabi into the Trump family. Our reporter, David Kirkpatrick, who's extremely conservative in his calculations about how he's assessing this, has said that the Trump family has enriched itself to the tune of $4 billion since taking office again in 2024. Does this concern you at all?
enriched itself to $4 billion. Here was Shapiro's response.
Of course. I mean, I've been calling this out, I think, before pretty much anybody else. I mean, early on in the Trump administration, when World Liberty Financial was pretty clearly making a fair bit of money over in the Middle East, I raised red flags on my show consistently about how I thought this was wrong. If the name were Biden and instead of Trump, people would be screaming bloody murder.
Precisely. This isn't about partisan score settling. It's about whether the presidency is being used to serve the public or serve the president's portfolio. Reporting from outlets including the New York Times and Reuters lays out a pattern. Overseas licensing deals worth at least $23 million since re-election, more than 20 foreign projects from Oman to India to Saudi Arabia, often requiring cooperation from foreign governments. In one case, tariffs on Vietnam were lowered shortly after a $1.5 billion Trump Organization Gulf project broke ground outside Hanoi, reportedly fast-tracked by Vietnamese officials. Then there's crypto. Reuters reports that Trump's digital coin ventures have become his biggest moneymaker, an avenue where people, including foreign actors, can buy in, often quietly, while the administration makes policy decisions that absolutely affect them. A review cited by the Times editorial board estimates at least $1.4 billion in gains tied to this presidency. It's good to know that they acknowledge that number to be an underestimate because of hidden profits. Well, there's this other review by the New Yorker. It found that number closer to $3.5 billion. Now, the exact financial arrangements remain opaque, but what is clear is this. Discussions of trade, military assistance, and diplomacy are now inextricably entwined with the president's private business interests. Even Ben Shapiro, who campaigned for Trump in 2024 and says the, quote, guardrails are holding, acknowledges the corruption concern. He calls Trump financially corrupt and morally wanting, yet he still defends him as a better binary choice. Sigh. That's where we are. We've normalized a system where the bar isn't, is this ethical? It's as long as the person is in my party. The Constitution anticipated foreign influence. That's why the emoluments clause exists. The presidency was never meant to be a profit center. But you can argue about policy wins. You can argue about immigration, judges, the economy. But if we can't agree that leveraging the Oval Office for personal enrichment is dangerous, no matter the party, then we're not debating ideology anymore. We're debating whether the presidency is a public trust or a private business opportunity. Your boy Ben Shapiro, he's saying this ain't right. Where there's smoke, there's fire, taking a $400 million Qatar jet, a lot of different things that the president has done seems to benefit him personally, suing all these media networks, putting in his library account so he can build this beautiful library for himself. It's a lot going on that even Shapiro, who campaigned for the man, cannot defend. What say you?
If the American people thought this was a problem, they could have voted for somebody else. I mean, we decided in democratic fashion that concerns about Trump's personal corruption or complicity in corruption are not disqualifying. So who am I to judge at that point? It's not what I would have supported, but I don't know how you get around the fact that Trump is a very wealthy businessman with a business empire all over the world, and thus the policies do affect him somewhat, his bottom line. I don't really think he's trying to, I don't see a lot of that he's trying to enrich himself personally.
He's breaking ground all over the Middle East and working directly with leaders. And we named the Vietnam example where he's working, but it's
generally good things to bring business
to other countries.
Yes.
The America First president who has the opportunity to build and create more business here so people have more jobs is breaking, no, I'm telling you, he campaigned on this. He's breaking ground internationally left and right through his son, saying it has nothing to do with him. But as a leader of the government, making deals. Yeah, but he is, because he's trying to tariff people to death to get more employment here and less reliance on foreign nations, while at the same time building businesses in foreign. The whole policy is incoherent, is what I'm saying. Not that part. Internationally and not in the U.S. when you say you're America first, it makes no sense.
The business of America is business. So good. He should use his office to reduce barriers to trade with other nations. That's a good thing.
When they benefit him.
You're mad that he has sued media companies for slander in his personal capacity, which is his right to do that and every American's right to do that if they engage in slander. The BBC edited wrongly in their documentary on January 6th, made it appear like he said something that he did not say, and so he's suing them for it. I don't think the lawsuit is going to work because there's not the showing damages part of it in Florida or wherever, I think it's in Florida, is going to be tricky, but it's his right to do that, and they did defame him. So
I just don't understand how people are still drinking the Kool-Aid of a president that says he cares so much about bringing jobs back
they're
here.
thirsty
But
for
they must be
change.
thirsty because he's building and providing jobs for other countries while also creating incentives for these nations.
Zero sum. Jobs in other countries means they'll produce things, raise their
No, he's
standard of
building
living.
hotels.
Well,
He's
good.
building hotels.
Well, and then
so we can
we'll
go spend our money internationally at the Trump hotels.
I want
What are you
hotels
saying?
everywhere.
Okay, then he can build here and at the same time stop being courteous to foreign nations and
Sometimes
putting them
people
first
in
and
America
his business interests
like to
first.
go, like you, Lindsay, you travel
I
all
do.
over the world.
I do.
You
I'll
go
be sure to
stay at
skip over the Trump.
hotel.
No, I'll be sure to
You'll
skip it.
stay there,
Nope.
and that's creating economic opportunities for the people there who work at the hotel. It's nice for you because you're taking that little bit of vacation and work, I know, and that's
so
nice.
while he tariffs our allies,
Kinsley can go too,
Kinsley can
and,
come. While he tariffs our allies to death, like Canada, a country that's been our ally forever, he's being lenient to a lot of Middle Eastern countries because he's building Trump towers there that he says has nothing to do with him, that his son is handling. But he's actively being lenient in the laws that they agree upon to make this fast track, like the Vietnam example that I provided, while at the same time treating Canada poorly, and you think that this is okay. Just to benefit him personally in a business sense.
I don't think it just benefits him personally. I don't support the tariffs on Canada, though. I would get rid of the tariffs. So you're right. I agree.
This is like
I
a bully
agree with
tactic.
you on the tariffs.
And we shouldn't, we shouldn't have presidents. Think
Well,
about
other
think
countries
about the
should
reason
be-
that you
should
would
get
come
rid
into
of their
office.
tariffs and the economic things they do to the U.S. that are not good. That's Canada, and that's most notably is the European Union, which I complain about constantly for the way it has mistreated American tech companies, and they shouldn't push us around, and they shouldn't beat up on our companies and then still expect us to pay for their defense when Russia's invading their territory.
We're setting a precedent where whoever comes into the office should think about how much they can financially benefit from holding this position in every single way while in office. If that is the precedent that we set and say, forget the emoluments clause,
I don't think that
forget
precedent
favors.
was set by Donald Trump. It was set by
By
a
whom?
person with the last name Biden.
Okay, here we go. Every time we talk about any conversation,
No,
we
I
go back to
can't.
Biden.
When you
go
bring
ahead.
up
Let me get to
personal
Biden.
corruption,
Do.
I cannot.
Go ahead. Let me just tell you a story about Biden.
You might have heard about Hunter Biden and his efforts to leverage the Biden family name. Oh, you play that invisible violin.
I was an
very well.
orchestra too. You learned something new about me. I
know
played the
what
cello
you're
for 10 years.
Yeah.
You got to do the hand movement is very
good.
Yeah.
Okay, but Hunter did try to sell the Biden family name to Ukraine and China. I mean, he did.
I'm getting in your shot.
Did you care about
Come on
that?
now. Come
Did you care about that?
I care about it all, Robbie. I just want to talk about the topic at hand, that you don't mind that the office of presidency is being sold. You don't mind that Trump's
didn't
biggest,
say I don't mind it.
his biggest
I said
benefit
the
is
American people don't
no,
mind
his
it.
biggest wealth is generated from his crypto endeavors, and we know that anyone can invest in Trump's crypto with basically no oversight. They can just be foreign people that are just pouring money in, and we don't know. And you just don't know who's paying him to. It's pay to play at this point, and you don't care.
Take us
and
out
I'm
with
really
some
sad.
music. Take us out with some music.
I wish we had some usable music for the break, because I just would just really. You can call me Yanni. I believe that's his name.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I know. All right, well done. I salute you for that. Up next, President Trump and Governor Wes Moore are clashing over the response to a sewage spill in the Potomac River that we've been worried about here in D.C. Stay with us.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore got into an online spat with President Trump over a sewage spill in the Potomac River.
In a Truth Social post on Monday, Trump accused Moore of gross mismanagement, leading to a sewage pipe interceptor rupturing in Cabin John, Maryland in January.
That collapse released an estimated 240 million gallons into the Potomac River. Now, some researchers say this is one of the largest waste spills in U.S. history. Maryland Governor spokesperson Amar Moussa told The Hill in a statement Tuesday, quote, "The president has his facts wrong again. Since the last century, the federal government has been responsible for the Potomac Interceptor, which is the origin of the sewage leak. For the last 4 weeks, the Trump administration has failed to act, shrinking its responsibility and putting people's health at risk." Spokesperson Musa added, quote, notably, the president's own EPA explicitly refused to participate in the major legislative hearing about the cleanup last Friday. Apparently, the Trump administration hadn't gotten the memo that they're actually supposed to be in charge here.
That response from Moore's spokesperson came after Trump posted another Truth Social post on Tuesday, writing, quote, Maryland, Virginia, and Washington, D.C., who are responsible for this massive sewage spill in the Potomac River, must get to work immediately. If they can't do the job, they have to call me and ask politely to get it fixed. The federal government is not at all involved with what has taken place, but we can fix it. The two governors and the mayor of D.C. must act immediately. This is a radical left-caused environmental hazard. With all of their talk about carbon footprints and everything else, they're allowing hundreds of tons of sewage to pour into the mighty Potomac, making it much less mighty.
The pipe takes wastewater from several towns in the John F. Dulles International Airport area all the way to Washington.
It's then processed farther downstream at the Blue Plains Advanced Wastewater Treatment Plant in Anacostia in Washington, D.C.
Speaking of disagreements, Trump and Moore recently sparred over Maryland governor's attendance at the National Governors Association annual White House dinner. Democratic governors Wes Moore of Maryland and Jared Polis of Colorado were not invited to the White House dinner taking place on February 21st. In a statement, Moore said, quote, as the nation's only black governor, I can't ignore that being singled out for exclusion from this bipartisan tradition carries an added weight, whether that was the intent or not.
Meanwhile, Trump aboard Air Force One on Monday blamed Governor Wes Moore for not doing a good job. Let's listen.
The guy's just a bad governor. He's not doing a good job. Wes Moore, he's doing a terrible job. And you can see that. Well, I didn't invite those two. If the rest of them don't want to show up, that's okay. I hear they're coming, a lot of them. The White House is a great place to be. But no, I don't like the job that Wes Moore's doing. I don't like the job he's doing in the bridge. I don't like the fact that he did that horrible, with the pipes and the Potomac. And he's not doing the job.
I would be more interested in finding out what his problem is with Jared
Polis.
Who's one of the Democratic governors
that you actually like
better.
Yeah, Jared Polis also is not. Yeah, he's not like in the way, because I've interviewed
like the most moderate
Mayor Johnston. Yeah, who's the mayor of Denver? Who Jared Polis obviously has disagreements in the way that he's handling immigration and a bunch of things, specifically Denver. So I don't know what his problem with Jared Polis is, but whatever. Regardless of politics, clean this up. Are they crazy? This is embarrassing. I didn't know much about the story, and then I read it, and I'm like, this is absolutely disgusting. So I know people are not swimming.
I also don't know much about this story, and I don't want to because it's gross.
You should. And it's not affecting drinking water yet, but also people are not swimming in a frozen. Yeah, people are not swimming in a frozen river in February, but the bacteria, according to experts, can survive in freezing temperatures and become active when the temperature rises, like it will in the next few weeks for the spring. This is disgusting. There's millions of gallons of waste. It's going to be one of the biggest waste spills in our U.S. history. Almost, they said they're saying 240 million, but it could be closer to 300 million. And think about critical infrastructure failing in our nation's capital. How embarrassing does that look for our country? The same one that the president wanted to put the National Guard in because crime was such a big deal about how the city, how D.C. looks as a whole to the rest of the country and then the larger world. How does it look if trash is literally in our water, can't even have good drinking water for pets and possibly us, and they're arguing about who's more petty and whose fault this is? This is embarrassing.
Yeah, I don't really know there's a dispute over whose problem this is, but I don't care. Just fix it.
And the president saying politely, come talk to me politely.
Come in and fix it. Like, he didn't wait for permission to send in the guard, so why do you need, just fix it.
Politely, Wes Moore to chat with you.
Just fix it. Call Wes Moore and say, you got to get it done, and if you can't get it done, then you do it, please.
But this goes back to my original.
Fix it.
My consistent, not original, my consistent statements about the president.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes the pettiness can be subsided and a conversation can happen earlier, and we don't need to have the back and forth.
Well, he gets along with Muriel Bowser fine, so that's the mayor of D.C., so whatever, get it, then cut out Wes Moore, and then you two get it done.
But imagine people who are taking their dog for a walk, looking at the disgusting water, and then seeing Wes Moore tweeting, or his office,
like a
and the
river
president
of excrement.
Right. And imagine this is what's happening. This is how it's being handled.
Ugh.
Yeah, I actually, this story grossed me out so bad. I can't even take it. And I think that, I thought it was only Wes Moore that wasn't invited to the governor's dinner. And since I know now it's Jared Polis, because that was
Right, I
like
don't think
breaking
it's
news
a
to me.
race thing.
Yeah, I think that the race thing is a
Played the race
stretch. I'm
card
not
a
gonna
little prematurely.
prematurely. If it was just him, I would say it was, because I think he is
Jared
the only
Polis
black
is
governor
a
right
white-
now.
Is white dude.
But Jared Polis is a white guy, so Trump is just a pettiness card. That's what Trump is playing, the ultimate pettiness. And again, I always request more from him. I want you to just always request more from him when we talk about these type of stories, that he needs to do a little bit better, from the auto pen picture of Biden to the screaming, come talk to me nicely for me to clean up this feces in the water. I mean, he needs to really be more presidential. Yeah, like Obama was saying earlier this week when we saw him on the podcast asking President Trump to not make it a clown show. This is that type of behavior that he's referring to.
While we're on this rather disgusting subject,
You want to go further
pet
deeper
peeve
into?
of my so all the snow is finally melting away. There was a lot of rain over the weekend, so it's the snow is being gotten rid of. And when the snow subsides, you get to see all the places where people didn't pick up after their dogs. Pick up after your dogs, people. If you have dogs, don't just leave it in the street. That's disgusting. And
Do you have a dog?
Everywhere. I used to have dogs. I don't have dogs anymore. I cleaned up after my dogs always, every time. It's disgusting not to. So that should be a very significant criminal violation if you don't do that.
I'm laughing so hard because I actually did notice that as I was
disgusting.
looking around the last couple days. I've been
looks
like,
like
why is it? I thought
New York or
excess amount
LA
of
or
dogs
something.
were like
Ugh.
just enjoying themselves on the streets this week. I didn't,
Everybody,
but now that you break that
everybody
down,
has
it just
dogs
happened.
because we're all childless millennials, and we
I have a
just
child, excuse
you have
me, and I'm a
child, I know,
millennial,
but
so-
a lot of people in the city don't.
Because you can't afford it because of the
'Cause of
grandparents.
Because of the grandparents.
Yes, that's what
pilfering
Robby's
from
stance
the-
is. But I'm able to afford my kid, and my grandma can live her life, and I am happy about both.
Good for you.
I think it's possible.
Clean up after your dogs, people.
Okay, a little known government agency now defending prediction markets like Kalshi in court. And it has Republicans split. We'll be right back after this. Here's a government agency you may have never heard of, the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC. And its chair, Mike Selig, are making headlines after he announced yesterday that his agency would move to stop states from regulating prediction markets like Kalshi.
CFTC lawyers filed a friend of the court brief in support of Crypto.com, which operates a prediction market, in a court case between the platform and Nevada state regulators. Selig defended this move in a video on X.
The CFTC has today filed a friend of the court brief to defend its exclusive jurisdiction over these derivative markets. Prediction markets aren't new. The CFTC has regulated these markets for over 2 decades. Today, the CFTC is taking an important step to ensure that these markets have a place here in America and have the integrity and resilience and vibrancy that our derivatives markets deserve.
Tennessee Senator Bill Hagerty applauded the move, writing on social media, in part, the strength and stability of U.S. markets hinge on regulatory consistency, so I'm glad to see Chairman Selig weigh in on the need for clear rules of the road for American prediction markets. A patchwork of varying state approaches would fracture the framework Congress put in place, driving our innovators offshore.
But not everyone is on board with the CFTC's new defense of prediction markets. Utah Governor Spencer Cox took to X to address Chairman Selig personally, saying, quote, "These prediction markets you are breathlessly defending are gambling, pure and simple. They are destroying the lives of families and countless Americans, especially young men. They have no place in Utah." And former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie echoing that in a post of his own, violating the rights of states who have been regulating sports betting and the rights of the states who oppose sports betting is not the purview of another alphabetical soup federal agency. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, this one is a little tough for me because I don't want to aggressively regulate prediction markets. This is no surprise, libertarian, think prediction markets should broadly be left alone. But I am a fan of states' rights approaches to regulatory issues. So if I was running a state, I would be very lax on regulation of these markets. That's what I would vote for, and that's what I'd want. Do I think the federal government should come in and tell a state that wants to have tougher regulation on something that it can't do that? I don't know. That starts to make me uncomfortable, especially because we don't know. And I want to do laboratories of democracy. We'll see. One state can do tighter, stricter regulation. One state does less strict regulation, and you find out what the people like better. What's better. Now, having said that, these technologies are so, not really confined to one. It's tech is making it all interconnected globally. So it doesn't really make sense to have 50 different regulations. I see what they're saying, that makes it difficult to scale their business. And I don't think they should be regulated. I'm sure there's lots of moralizing, people who are going to go, this is unhealthy or whatever, we shouldn't do it.
Well, I'll start from the moral point. I do think, that's me.
moralizing.
I'm moralizing. I think that
Thank
there are a
you,
lot
Mom.
of people. Yeah, I'll be your mom. There's a lot of people that are, abusing these gambling systems. I know you believe in autonomy and you believe in people having the free range to ruin their lives, but I think that's why gambling was isolated to Las Vegas.
From the consequences of your
so
own
I
bad
wanted to see
decisions.
where Donald Trump stood, because this is all like wrapping my head around some new topics with this that I'm not really involved in, because I don't gamble. I'm the biggest cheapskate you probably will ever meet in your life. So it seems like he's signaling support for these markets, particularly because it checks media narratives a little bit. These gambling or markets that you predict on sometimes are more accurate than polls. And so it kind of gets a temperature for where people stand. So he might be with the federal government on this, or the CFTC, I should say. But states are saying something that I agree with. If it walks like sports betting, if it breathes like sports betting, then it is sports betting. So why are we pretending like we're not going to allow gambling to be like this nationwide thing when really we're betting on anything? We can bet on elections. We can bet on young college players. And also, I did an interview when I filled in for Blake for The Hill on News Nation. We had a guest on there that talked about the impact and the implications, to go back to the moral thing, for young people. There are a lot of young people that play college sports that know they're getting betted on and feel like terrible, put to shame, like literally morally drowned, because people are like, man, I lost so much money on you. I put this money on this bet. And it's like they're just trying to pursue their passion, do their life. And so we need to not put that much pressure on also young people. I think that it could get really out of control.
Yeah, I don't think government, the harms here from the gambling and the betting are confined to the person who does it. Government regulation is most called for when there are external harms. Like you can make, with some vices, you can make that argument more strongly. Like, alcohol has a more destructive, alcohol abuse has a more, makes people more violent. Car crashes has some external harms. In the cases of gambling, we're talking about primarily because most people can go to the casino or do a little bit of gambling, a little bit of sports gambling, have fun, and not gamble away their life savings. There's a small minority of people who gamble recklessly and dangerously, and they harm themselves, but they're not harming, external people. So in that way, I don't see how the government could justify limiting me or you, who won't gamble in excess ever, because some people can't control themselves.
Well, this is not going away, but we have to leave it there. That does it for us on Rising Live. Look out for more exclusive YouTube content coming your way today. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe to The Hill's YouTube channel so you never miss any content. And for those of you who like to listen on the go, we're now available anywhere you listen to podcasts. See you next time.